Just before I get started doing anything else, I'm just going to say that I'm not sponsored to do this. Everything that I'll be painting and showing you, I've bought myself. Yeah, no transactions going on behind the scenes, so we're all good. So you can see here, this is what I'm going to be working on today. So I've got some Drystone Wall, which I'm going to be working on. You can probably see here, I've already primed this with a grey spray primer, just to show you. Here's another piece of a thing, so you can see that's the difference in colour. That's kind of the colour it started, and that's the colour it's finished. Grey's a good classic primer colour for anything stoneworky, that kind of thing. I've shown you on previous streams how just with some ink and some dry brushing you can turn this into a perfectly serviceable tabletop wall, but we're going to do a few other things today. So I had a start on mixing up some. I'm basically doing these almost as glazes. So you can see this one's kind of almost split, but we can get that back together nice and easily. So I've started doing some of these colours. You can see that they're very, very thin, which is kind of what I want for this, for going into those pieces of brickwork. So I started doing that. I'm going to do a couple more colours. You can see how bright some of these colours are that I'm going to be using. I am going to put a wash over the top later on, so it will kind of dampen it down. But if you have a look, I was going to show a picture of some Drystone Wall as a kind of inspiration point. And then I thought, I really don't want to get in trouble with copyright either on here, or eventually this will go on YouTube. So I didn't want to get in trouble. But if you just Google Drystone Wall, you can see that there is a huge variation in the colours. So I'm happy to put some of these really bright colours in to begin with. I'm also using a lot of Instar paint. You'll have seen me in the past using some of this. This is another quite a small company, and for this I'm actually using Water Plus to water this down. Now, normally, if you see my streams, you'll know I normally just water down my paints with just water, tap water. Water Plus is created by Instar Paint, and I haven't used it very much, so this is kind of a test, really. But the design of it is such that it has the composition of it is supposed to keep the paint together better. So if you put a lot of water into paint, it just kind of, the pigment splits, as you've seen actually with that one. It kind of splits and it goes all a bit weird and funny. So this is designed not to do that. So I'm using that to see how it goes. And literally all I'm doing to get the kind of level of kind of glaze that I'm going for is we put down a couple of dots of paint onto my wet palette. Obviously this will be getting a little bit of kind of standard water, if you like, just from being on the wet palette. But then we add, again, literally just a couple of drops of the Water Plus. And if you've seen my video on brush care and things, you'll know it's a good idea to use a really knackered old brush when you're kind of mixing your paints, because it's so easy to get the paint up to the top of the to the kind of brushes up under the ferrule. I don't know why I always say that as if it's some incredibly posh word, but you can see there that's gone really thin, which is kind of what we're looking for. So we'll have that. That again is a very kind of deep red. That's described as wine red, that colour. But I think it will work nicely. And I'm going to use some flesh tone because, again, it's the kind of colour that you would find with these. And what I'm going to do when the time comes is I'm going to do them kind of all at the same time, so that they can dry as they go. And I'm going to start with the kind of more standard colours and put them in most. They're going to be the most prevalent on the pieces. But then the less usual colours will be scattered about in there to add the variety and to kind of make it look like one of those different looks of wall. So that's what we're going for. I'm mostly going to be leaving the top to be kind of grey, because I can leave stones in the grey of the primer as well, because they'll also take the wash and the dry brush, which I'll be doing later on. Because I think they look quite slaty, and I think slate would be mostly grey rather than the brighter colours. But there we go. We'll do one more, I think. We'll go for a really bright red. So I'm leaning towards the kind of reds of the palette. So that would be the kind of area of stone that I'm looking for. I have to say I'm not a geologist, so my knowledge of stones is not what it might be beyond colours. But oh yeah, then let's add a little bit of this Water Plus. Drop that in there. The Instar paints are quite thin already, so I don't need loads. And there you go. Really loose and flowing really nicely. So yeah, we've got a good variety of colours there. So the colours that I put in before you got here, just so you know, I've got some Stonewall Grey from who's this by Vallejo. That's this first one. So that will probably be the one I use most. I've also got some Karak Stone from Games Workshop, some Banana Yellow from Instar, and some Dark Peach also from Instar. So that's what we're going to go for. Okay, so we're going to crack on and do some first bits of painting on these walls, and then when that's drying, I will show you some of the other bits and pieces that I've got here. But it's a good idea to get these things going early, otherwise there's no chance of me getting any more work done on them a bit later on. Now, one of the joys of doing terrain for me is you don't necessarily need, not the eye for detail, that's not fair, because obviously I've already been thinking about what the different colours are and how we're going to use them and things. So it's not about attention for detail exactly, but you don't have to be super precise. It doesn't matter if you go over a little bit, because these are natural rocks. We're looking to do all kinds of different colours and shades, so you don't have to worry about that. We're going to let this dry. I will keep an eye on it to see how long it takes. Because the paint was very watered down, it will take a while, but it's also very little used in most places, so I don't think we've got too much to worry about. So we'll place that to one side for now. So let's have a check-in on our wall. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how dry that is. So you can see there that it's very much multicolored at this point. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to hit that with a dry brush to give that, when doing all stone, just that little bit of dry brushing, bringing out all these kind of white areas, just kicks it up a notch. And so that's what we're going to do for all the grey parts and all the coloured parts. It's going to help to kind of bring it together as well, rather than it looking like all separate things that have recently been stuck together, because these walls will have been standing for years and years and years. So it kind of gives it that continuity as well, and makes it look like a unified piece. So we're going to get to that. So my preferred dry brush for doing these is Terminator Stone from Citadel, from Games Workshop. There are many stone paints out there. I just find for the actual dry brushing, this is perfect, because it's not so bright white that it really kind of catches the eye, but it really gives that effect of the kind of worn and torn corners, which is kind of what we're going for. And because we'll be, I don't know, I'm shaking that, it's a dry brush paint, so it's solid, pretty solid in there. Because the dry brush will be just hitting the kind of top layers of detail, it kind of is what's giving it that lived-in old look. I know that's what gives me the lived-in old look, all those grey bits. So we'll kind of hit that, and hopefully that will start to just kind of bring it together, and as I say, make it look a bit more like a single coherent piece rather than lots of separate areas. I'm not too worried about going in quite heavily with this to begin with, because again, as I say, I will be getting a wash on there. But you can see just that little area that I've done. Yeah, I should be dry brushing myself grey. That's the issue. You can see the difference already. It's looking much more like a wall and much less like some random colours stuck together. So we'll keep going with that. It's dry brushing is a nice, quick, easy few seconds of work. Dry brushing and using washes is particularly for someone who's trying to paint quick or a newcomer to painting, is an absolute godsend, because it's for just a few seconds work you can get really good results. But my plan is to hit it with quite this didn't mean to hit it literally, is to go in with the quite a heavy dry brush at this point, which is what I'm doing right now, to really pick up all of those edges, give us that look that we're looking for. Then go in with a black wash, so I'll be using Nuln Oil from Games Workshop, because that's the one that I happen to have. That will take a long time to dry again because it's a wash, so that's why I won't be able to finish this on the stream. But the Nuln Oil will go on, and that will start to bring it together. And I'll then go back in with another much lighter dry brush to bring up some of those light colours again. And then what I'll do is use a brown wash, but just selectively on the surface. I won't go all over, because again, it's kind of giving it that variation, where some areas will be more affected by the dirt and the dust and everything else going on than others. What you can do when you've done all of that is start to put some green and some moss onto the stones, because that can certainly look like that it's been standing there a long time and it's got damp and all those things. I certainly won't have time to do that on the stream today, but we'll see. I think I'll see what the effect looks like once I finish this, and just see if that's what I want to do. And I'm gonna put some wash onto this. So let's have a look. Here we go. Here's some Nuln Oil, which is the black wash from Games Workshop. hope you've enjoyed what we've done, and that maybe you've take something away about maybe doing things a little differently or whatever it might be. And yeah, thank you for joining me. I will post photos of this once I've finished it later on today on Twitter, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you again at a stream very soon. But because you're watching on YouTube, you get to see the finished walls. So here we have the wall that I was working on the stream once I've put the washes and the dry brushes on there, and you can see that the what were really bright colours have dampened down a lot now, so they look a lot more natural and as part of the overall effect. And here is the full set which I painted across a few different days. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope to see you again.